Hey guys, it's Omer from MMOs.com. We'll do another quick weekly recap of MMO news and announcements for the week ending December 7th, 2015. This is episode 7 of the weekly news recap, and the first bit of news this week comes from Wildstar. The news is that Wildstar will be relaunching as a free-to-play game on September 29th, and it'll be renamed Wildstar Reloaded. So we have the official release date now, September 29th, and between now and then there is a second phase of closed beta testing. It does feel a bit odd to say closed beta for a game that's been out for years now, but it is officially launching on September 29th. And it'll be joined in many other MMORPGs that started as a pay-to-play game and went free-to-play. Moving right along, we have some news from Mortal Online. And the news is that Mortal Online is finally launching on Steam. Now, Mortal Online is not exactly a new game. It's been out since 2010. It's a PvP-heavy MMORPG that's inspired by games like Ultima Online, with full loot, hardcore PvP action, and all that good stuff. The game is available on Steam as of August 31st, and despite launching with some bumps, mainly because of server load and other issues, the game is good to go. The game features no classes and no levels, and instead opts for a skill system, kinda similar to Ultima Online. The game's developer, Starvault, is hoping that a Steam release will bring more players into the game. Next up, a little bit of news from EverQuest Next, and the news is that the game went through an internal playtest at daybreak earlier this week. Terry Michaels, the game's producer, said that they're working on the game's combat and how the world is going to be built. This isn't really a big news, but it's important because it kind of shows that they're still working on the game. EverQuest Next has been in development for over 3 years now, and it's good to see these little mini updates. And if you haven't heard of EverQuest Next, it's basically the next EverQuest game after EverQuest 2. And despite sharing the EverQuest name, it's not going to be a sequel or a prequel. Instead, it will take place in a parallel world in Norath. Up next, a bit of news from Hi-Res Studios. The news is that Smite is actually launching on Steam, and this actually catches a lot of players by surprise because Hi-Res Studios have specifically said that it's never going to happen. They specifically said that Smite would never come to Steam, and they've been saying this for a while, but they finally caved. Smite is launching on Steam on September 8th, which is actually tomorrow on Tuesday. Also in Smite-related news, they released a new god called Jing Tian. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. New gods in the game are of course equivalent to heroes in Dota 2 or champions in League of Legends. Despite not getting too many mentions from me, Smite is actually one of the most successful MOBAs out there after both League and Dota. It's doing quite well. And with a Steam release, it will probably do even better. Next up, a bit of unfortunate news from Pathfinder Online. And the news is that almost the entire Pathfinder Online staff has been laid off. They ran through quite a bit of financial troubles, and right now only 3 employees remain, including the CTO, art director, and designer. And the reason for the layoffs at GoblinWorks is because apparently they're running out of money. And they actually raised over $1 million on Kickstarter, and they marked themselves as fully funded, yet the game is not out yet, and it's not fully complete, and the game's future is in jeopardy. Personally, I don't think it looks very good for the game. They said they'll keep funding the game's development through subscriptions, but given that the game and where it is today, that may be difficult, but only time will tell. Next up, on the more positive news, we got some news from Guild Wars 2 regarding the Heart of Thorns update, and the news is that they revealed some of their world versus world changes, and it's going to allow guilds that capture objectives to actually be able to upgrade these objectives to tier 1, 2, and 3. Upgrade objectives will be easier to defend, and we'll have other perks. Also in some Heart of Thorns news, Arena details some of the 10-man raids in the upcoming expansion. Some key things to note is 10-man raids will not require attunements or gear to grind to access, and that the raids will include some puzzles. Guild Wars 2 went free to play last week, and the Heart of Thorns expansion is still coming out on October 23rd. Moving right along, we have some news about Skysaga. The game's Alpha 5 launched this week with a new trailer as well as a new playable tribe, the Monkeys. Also included in Alpha 5 are new recipes, adventures, community quests, creatures, and more. In fact, the game's developers are calling it the biggest update yet. In other Skysaga news, players can now purchase multiple islands as well. They even start creating race courses on their own islands, with their own leaderboards too. And as you can see from the visuals of the game, it's very desperately trying to compete with games like Trove. Voxel-based graphics are certainly in. Up next, South Korean dungeon crawler Diablo-like game Devilion begins its alpha testing for Obsidian founders. Those who spent $150 on the game's founders pack can finally start playing. And a fun fact for those that don't know, the game was developed by Bluehole, the same studio behind Terra. There is no official release scheduled for the game, however the game is expected to launch in the full release in Q4 2015, so those that don't want to buy Founders Pack don't have to wait too long to play. Moving right along, we have a bit of news from Warmode, the free-to-play FPS game developed by a Russian studio. The news is that Warmode has been removed from Steam, possibly due to plagiarism, at least according to a popular theory on the Steam forums. A link to the game's Steam page actually redirects to the game's homepage, meaning that the game is no longer on Steam. However, anyone that has the game can still play it on Steam. Accusations of plagiarism would not be too far-fetched considering many of the game's maps are rip-offs of other games, as well as actually the game shares a name with a Half-Life mod called Warmode, so possibly the game was stolen from there as well. Despite subpar gameplay, it wasn't awful. It was fun to play every once in a while. Next up, a small update from WebZen's Archlord, and the news is that Archlord released an update titled Seasons of Siege, which introduces a new Castle Siege PvP system to the game. Considering Archlord 2 billed itself as a PvP MMORPG, it's a bit surprising they didn't have Castle Sieges up until now, but Castle Sieges will take place once a week, every Sunday. The next and last bit of news this week is from Skyforge, and the news is that they revealed their Hostile Territories trailer, which showcases some 5-man late-game content. In Hostile Territories, players are faced with difficult challenges, and after completing a single challenge, they're given the option of cashing out, taking their rewards, and leaving, or risk getting nothing by progressing onwards to a more difficult challenge and hoping to get better rewards. The further a group presses on, the better the rewards, obviously. Anyway guys, that's it for MMO News for the week ending September 7th, 2015. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the podcast. Later guys.